Okay. So we're going to be talking about editing in Lightroom. And man, that was a loaded topic, wasn't it? Because I could talk for hours and hours and hours and hours about editing in Lightroom. So I've got to kind of keep it short. And I was trying to think about what would be really pressing for everybody in terms of editing in Lightroom. What's something that everybody can get something out of. So we're going to talk about the basics very quick. Like the first 15-20 minutes, we're going to talk about the basics of editing in Lightroom. Working with exposure, white balance, contrast, noise and sharpening, and local edits, because almost every picture needs those. I try to think of what every picture needs, regardless if it's a portrait, a person, a child, a baby, a house, a landscape, what have you, a food picture. Almost every image needs some type of attention with exposure, white balance, contrast, noise and sharpening, and local adjustments, local brushes. So we're going to talk about that first, and then we're going to go on to editing with presets, syncing, making snapshots, things like that, and how to get those stinking edits out. That's one of the most frequently asked questions is, okay, I've edited, now how do I get to it? So let's get busy with editing because we have a lot to cover. Okay, I have this really, really sweet picture. I think it's from Brooke Logue. I'm not positive. Laura, text me, tell me if this is a Brooke Logue picture. Brooke Logue Photography provides several pictures for Laura for the pretty presets, and we really appreciate her sharing her talent with us. So, very sweet picture of this young child playing the trumpet, and it's a really cute picture, but it needs a little extra attention to make it look its best. So we're going to do a clean edit first, and what we're going to do with that is, first thing, we're going to do a little bit with the exposure. We're just going to tweak the exposure. And when we're working with exposure and white balance and contrast, we're always going to, well, not always, mostly going to be using the basic panel, okay? Mostly going to be using the basic panel. There are ways to do those same things not in the basic panel, but the basic panel is named aptly in that the basics of editing are right here. So I'm a, let's see, let's just let me get this back too. I did a little tweaking. Okay. So here it is straight out of the camera. Okay. And I'm going to just pull up the exposure just a little bit. See, it needed, even though it was a good picture, it needed a little brightening, just a little bit. And I want to bump up the contrast a little bit, and there's two ways we can do that. Pull down the histogram here. You can increase the contrast this way, okay? We can see that it's really only hitting all these darker areas and bumping that up. You can also use your blacks. So watch our histogram as I move our blacks to the left. Okay. It's kind of edging over. We even have some writing up. So sometimes all you need is to pull that black slider over, but then sometimes it won't get you what you want. Like here, it's not really getting me what I want. So I'm going to back off a little bit and then increase that contrast some, because I want a little more contrast. So I like that. Just be careful. Be careful of what you see happening in under eye circles or wrinkles or blemishes. He doesn't have wrinkles, blemishes, things like that. So we're not seeing it. But if this was a woman or an older woman, they don't want you, or a teenager who has blemishes, they don't want you to accentuate those details. So be careful about that, because you can always add in contrast locally, which we'll talk about. So I bumped up the exposure a little bit, and you can do that with this slider, right or left. If it's too bright, bring it down. If it's too dark, bring it up. White balance. White balance is the overall color temperature of your image. Now this one is really, it looks pretty good. It really looks pretty good. So it might just need a little adjusting, okay? And the way I know that is, see, I've got this, I'm just moved my mouse into his skin area. Now if you look over here underneath the histogram, right now it's saying, it's giving me my EXIF data, the ISO, the focal length it was shot at, the aperture it was shot out, and the shutter speed. That's your EXIF data, camera data. When the picture was taken, this is what was used. But now watch what happens when I move my mouse over his skin. Okay, so now we have R79, green 76, blue 76. I can move some other areas, and the blue actually gets higher. We've got red 74, green 72, blue 74. So he's a little cool. Okay, it looks like he's a fair skin, fair complected little boy already. So we don't want to darken him up and make him look tan. We want to let him be fair, but he's a little cool. And some people are, like my husband runs cooler temperatures than I do or my daughter. Um, and my son, a couple of my sons are warmer, and one son is cooler. So people have different color temperatures, and that's okay. But typically people don't have that blue color higher. That means we're kind of gray or purple or blue, and we're not. Seldom do you look at somebody and think, gosh, they're blue, literally. So we want to kind of pull that down. Now, we can manipulate the colors, but it's kind of easy if we just use the eyedropper, and sometimes we can click around in the whites of the eyes and, oops, come on, there we go, and click around and now I'm going to pull this back over here. As I do that, we'll get a preview of what that'll look like in our navigator. So see, it warms it up there. If I move over here, there was I'm going to show a cool one right there. See how it's too green? If we clicked right there, the navigator is showing what it would look like if we clicked right where we were. Let's move back over here. Okay. I think I like that right there. Okay, so we warmed him up just a little bit. All right, come on now. Now, my eyedropper is still active. If you want it to go away as soon as you click somewhere, you can click on Auto Dismiss down here at the bottom. If you're not seeing anything under the bottom when you use your tools, I wanted to address this. Go to View and see where it says Hide Toolbar. If I click that, that toolbar goes away. So if you're missing that below there, this has happened a lot. That's some of the questions I've seen before and I didn't have time to address. If that toolbar is missing, people say, I don't see it, Go up to View and Show Toolbar, and there it'll show it, okay? Oops. And if we click Auto Dismiss, as soon as I click somewhere, like if I clicked right here, see it goes away. And you can click W to get it back. But we can just click somewhere here. And they'll say, oh, I like that, but he's a little too green, or, it's just a little bit too much, or not quite what we want. If you get close to what you want, you can always tweak the sliders. Now, he's still probably he's still too blue. So I'm going to pull the temp slider, towards the yellows and warm him up a little bit. See that? Just like that. And now our blues are lower than our greens, for the most part, okay, in most areas. And we can see what that looks like. So here's the before, and here's the after. And we haven't done much. We brightened it up a little bit, added a little bit of contrast, and warmed up the picture. So already we have a better image, just with a few things. So now let's click this. And how I'm getting the before and after is in the toolbar down here. It changes depending on what you're using, what tool you're using. But right now, if I hit YY, it's showing me before and after like that, side by side. If I click the rectangle inside a rectangle, that's the loop view, and it's just going to show me the one image. Okay, another way we can add a little more contrast if we wanted to is with this tone curve. Click on linear and then go to medium contrast and see how it bumped up. And what it did is it did a slight S-curve. This little slight. If you just barely a curve, S-curve, it's just slight. And we might say, I like that, or you may not. If you don't, you can always go back to linear, okay? And maybe you want to do it yourself, and so we can click on the line and pull it down just a little bit. But then we don't want to darken it too much. We're going to bring it just a little bit. So make it a little bit, okay? So maybe that's what we want. So you can make your own slight S-curve. Alrighty. Now, if your image was a little underexposed or a lot underexposed and you brightened it in post-processing, what happens is we have a little bit of noise anytime it's under. Now, I wouldn't have called this image underexposed. It wasn't. The exposure was really good. We just bumped it up a little bit. But let's say it's really dark and you have to brighten it up. You need to address noise. Because anytime you underexpose and then brighten in post-processing, you're going to have some graininess, right? That graininess is noise. So you want to address that if you have to. If you shot at a high ISO, or if you somehow accidentally underexposed, it happens to the best of us. It happens to everyone at some point. Even the pros, their settings are not right. They're in the fly and they take them. Oh man, and it's and then they adjust it. But maybe the one that they got wrong was really the shot they wanted. They need to bring it back. So let's adjust the noise. Okay. With noise reduction, you're going to handle the luminance, usually, okay, with this kind of thing. We just need a little bit, really, because he didn't, the exposure was great. She used a low ISO. So if anything, just a tiny bit, if at all. You could probably nix it. If, like, you're shooting a concert and it's dark and you really were pushing it, you might have some color inside your noise. Literally, like when you zoom in, you can see a little bit of red and green and purple, bluish colors flex in your noise. Then you would use the color noise reduction, okay? You would use that. But for the most part, we're going to use the luminance. And I just used a little tiny bit. The next thing is the sharpening. So with the sharpening, excuse me, you want to do it, but not overdo it. So the amount can go anywhere from 40 to 80, depending on your subject, okay, really. And the radius is how far out it's going to go from that edge, okay, and sharpen out, because it's looking for edges. When processing, editing programs sharpen, they're sharpening those edges. If there's no edges, you won't see any sharpening. Like we could sharpen this grass back here and you wouldn't see it because there's no edges. It's all blurred. It's looking for edges. All right. Detail, I keep that between 20 and 25. The real trick here is the masking. I just talked about this with ACR too in the webinar I did in Photoshop Elements an hour ago. I'm going to hold down my Alt key, option on my MacBook, but on a PC it'd be Alt. But click it down, hold it down, and click that, and it's white. And so wherever it's white, this sharpening will be applied. So it's global right now. It's over the entire image. As we move to the right, well, there's only one direction here at this point is right, we start to see some black come into the picture. And as we move on and on, everywhere that's black, the sharpening will be masked, meaning it won't be applied. The only area that the sharpening will be applied is on the white. So you notice that most of the skin is masked out. They won't apply the sharpening to the skin. But we got the eyes, the eyelashes, nostrils, the trumpet, the hair. That's where it's finding edges. And we're telling Lightroom, hey, listen, ignore all these other things and just apply to here. And we can go even further. So we're only applying to like right that. See that? That's at 90. So you just find your comfort zone, find what you like. I always do a minimum of 70 and have no problem going even over it. So we can go to like 78 here. But the more you mask, the more like, I'm willing to move up my sharpening a little bit more, because really the only thing being applied to it is, where it's being applied is the eyes, this area here, the trumpet, a little bit of the hair. So I'm not so afraid of the amount because I have done a heavy mask. Hope that makes sense. Okay. After I've done some global edits I'm pretty happy with, then I'll work on my brushes, my local adjustments. Your local adjustments are down here. We have the crop tool and the clone heal tool, the red eye, the graduated filter. In Lightroom 5, they have the radial filter. Lightroom 4 does not have the radial filter. Lightroom 3 and 4, they just have the grad filter and the brush. And then we've got the adjustment brush. Adjustment brush. And the brush is the one I use so much of. I do a lot of editing in Lightroom with the brush. So what I'm going to focus on is, because he's so stinking cute, he doesn't need much help, I'm going to whiten his eyes just a little bit, sharpen his eyes, brighten him up a little bit, tackle the under eye circles just a little bit. He really didn't need much. And I'm not going for a heavily over-processed image. I want it to look natural so that when somebody looks at it, they think, wow, that is beautiful. She took a beautiful picture. Brooke, Logue, or whoever took this picture. I don't want them to look at it and think, gosh, that looks Photoshopped. I know a lot of people here tonight have been to a lot of the webinars, and I know you've heard me say that, but I cannot say it enough, because that's your goal, is to edit to the point where it still looks like it came out of camera that way. Okay, if you're not doing some type of vintage or black and white, then it's okay. People know that you have applied a special technique to it, and that's okay. But if you're wanting to do just the natural, then you want it to look like it came that way. You don't want people to think, gosh, she really was heavy-handed on Photoshop. You don't want that. Okay, so where you find, and I'm going to use the custom brushes, some pretty presets, because they're fantastic. And I'm going to use those. Once they're loaded, they're in our brushes, and here's the standard brushes that come with Lightroom. Okay, we got temp all the way down to color, all these different brushes. And I'm going to use some of these. So I'm going to use the Eyes Whiten. Okay, the thing to know about the brushes is that some of them can be strong, and if they are, and after you've used them a while and you know they're too strong, then you can reduce the flow. And the flow is how much we're allowing it to come through with each mouse swipe, each time we click, or if you're using a pen or a pen and tablet, then each swipe with that. So I'm gonna I lowered it down. I'm gonna lower it down a little bit more. It's like 66, because I can keep brushing over it, and it's cumulative. It'll keep coming through. And if you want to see where you're brushing, you can turn your mask overlay on. And I changed my color just to freak people out. No, just because I felt like it. Normally it's red. Okay, normally where you're brushing, you're going to see red. But here I just decided to turn it green. And you can change that in your settings or your preferences. It's not a big deal. But so I hope it doesn't alarm anybody. Usually it's red, but I just turned mine green. All right, so we can turn that off if we don't want to see where it was. And if we want to brighten it, so wherever we brushed, then if we want more or if we want to change it, tweak it, I can always like increase the exposure if I need to be a little brighter. But you got to be careful with the eyes. You don't want them the whites of the eyes so bright that they look like these, alien eyes glaring at you. So once I back off, I may change this. So we'll see. Now, I want to handle the iris and pupil, so I need a new brush. This is where a lot of people make a mistake. You can't just change brush from one to the other, click, click, click. You need to hit new in between. Click new. All right, so if you're taking notes, make sure you write click new in between the brushes you use. New. Even if you're not using the custom brushes. If you're using the brushes that come with Lightroom right up here, click new in between the brushes. So I'm going to click new again just to be on the safe side. New, new, new. And now I'm going to, what am I looking for? Eyes color blue. Okay, so now I'm just going to click, and this just makes blue eyes a little bluer, green eyes a little greener, brown eyes a little browner. Right? If it's too much for you, what you can do is turn it on its side. See this little black triangle? And reduce it down. Okay, so we can reduce it down so it's not as strong. Now I want to do a new one, and this time I'm just gonna want to sharpen a little bit. I also want to brighten it a little bit. I think they were a little dark. So we're sharpening and brightening at the same time. Now I'm gonna back off, and it may be too strong, so I may have to adjust it. So let's back off. Not that much. I'm on a 13-inch, and sometimes it gives me fits. Okay. And click done. Not too bad. I think it'll be okay. I think the whites of the eyes are not too white. I might change it. So let's just say I changed it. I might say, they're too white. I got to change it. So click your brush again. Okay, if you got to alter something. And what we need to do is get those pins up. See, everywhere I clicked and started will be a little white circle. So now I got to identify which little white circle it was. And all you have to do is hover over it and the mask will show up. This is not the mask like the sharp mask. So when we're sharpening and we use that mask, everywhere the mask showed up, it's not applying it. Well, it really could be applying it too, but it's not a mask like in Photoshop or Elements. Here, this mask is just saying, hey, this is where you brushed. Okay, this is just showing us where we are applying the effect. So that's the pupil and iris. This one over here, this was the whites of our eyes. So I'm going to click it. Once it has a black circle in it, I can now adjust it. So I need to pull the exposure back down. It was a little too much, and that looks better. It looks more natural. Now I'm going to click New, and I'm going to do the under eye circles. Okay, and I'm just going to need to zoom in a little bit. There we go. And this is just going to help reduce those under eye circles just a little bit. You don't want to take those away completely. Take away the under eye circle completely and they almost look like a mannequin. Okay, so you don't want to do that either. So be careful, keep them believable. That's important. If you wanted to smooth the skin, you could, but I really don't think he needs it. He's a little boy, you know, he doesn't want to be a baby. All right. I forgot the keyboard shortcut for fit. And we're there. Now, let's look at a before and after. So it still looks natural. It looks good. It's brighter, more colorful, more contrast. His eyes have a little more color, and the catch lights stand out a little bit more. His under eye circles aren't quite as noticeable, and he's just a little warmer. It's a beautiful, it's really, really sweet picture, just like it is. We could do more with brushes, but we're going to keep it simple because I'm going to run out of time if I just keep on. So let's say you're like, you're editing along, you think, oh, this is great, and now I want to do some other stuff, but I don't want to lose this spot in time. Well, now's a great time to take a snapshot. And I bet the majority of y'all have never used the snapshot feature, and it is fantastic. I use it all the time. So I was playing with this picture a few hours ago. I took a snapshot of the straight of the camera, and then I took a snapshot of an edit I did with some presets. So now I'm going to do a snapshot of this one. So I'm going to do Command N or Control N on a PC, or I'm going to hit cancel. You can just come and click the plus sign, snapshot. So I'll just do webinar clean. So we've got that one. Now we can go back to this. Actually, what I should have done was done one just with the brushes. So I'm going to do my history. Come back. All right, so this is a point before the brushes. Okay. All right. And then we can see, we'd have to get to here. And you can see it just dulled the eyes a little bit and our under eye circles came back. So it was slight, but that's what we want. We want slight but effective. See that? The eyes just brightened up a little bit. The whites of the eyes a little whiter. It looks good. Now what we can do is come over here. Go back to that. If you want to do the same thing, but you're in a hurry and you just want to use presets for that. So we did it on our own with the right side. Okay, the right side is all hands-on editing. The left side is fast, efficient, hands-off editing. Okay, so let's do that, and I'm going to go back to the straight out of the camera. So here we are, straight out of the camera, and I'm going to use just the clean and creative advanced. All right, so I clicked quick clean. Now I want some contrast. I'm going to do sharpening for men and still life. Maybe add a little vignette. I like that. I'm going to come all the way down because I want to warm this up. So that's warm center light. That's just warm center. I think I like that. You can always add warm light. Okay, there we go. I'm going to add a blue and green pop. Okay, it's a little bit different. It might be a little bit too much. I don't know. We'll see. And then we can add other stuff if we wanted to. But, oh, and I've lost my, sometimes that happens with my Lightroom. My preview just decides to go to another picture. All right. So we can see, we can take another snapshot. Or, let's see, I'm just going to, and sometimes the color, that's not, that color didn't work there. Add green and blue. We can reduce yellows. So a little bit different, more washed out, but warm. I'm going to go back to add blue and green. Okay. And then we can see the before and after. So very, very, very quickly we went, and this doesn't have any of the brushes in it, this one. So this is, the left is straight of the camera, the right is with, I think, was that 4 clicks with the clean and creative. And we still have a clean edit that looks like it could come from the camera that way. If we wanted to do anything additional with that, so we could take another snapshot, which I did. Let's see. Here's one I did. That's an edit I did, a different edit with clean and creative. So this is a different clean edit. And then we can still add stuff to it, which is nice. This is a layering preset collection where we can add things. So like that's blueberries. We can add a hazy matte or a make matte, and we can still add in other stuff. Now they overwrite, and I may have already used some of these, so I don't know. There we go. I like that. So that is Clean and Creative Advanced. That's editing with those presets, and that's very, very handy. What if you want to sync preset, or what if you want to sync settings in general? Let's do that really quickly. I'm trying to cover a lot in a short amount of time. Let's see. I was just playing with some stuff here. There we go. All right, these pictures are from Susan DeSalt. She's a very talented photographer, and she runs Lilyfield Photography. And we appreciate her letting us use these pictures. So we have a few pictures in a row here. And if we wanted to run a particular preset on it, we can. I just want to do this so you show you syncing settings. You can sync settings that you do yourself in the develop on the right side. So if we adjusted white balance and exposure and contrast, we did all that, we could sync it just the same as we're doing on the left side. So I'm just going to quickly just do this. And I'm going to illustrate syncing. That's the purpose of this exercise, okay? So I'm going to see if the black and white, sometimes outdoor pictures don't lend themselves well for black and white, so I'm just going to clarify that. I have not played with these at all with black and white, so we're going to see. And this one has different bases, so that's like the first base, second base, third base. I think I like that one. Although her face might look a little too bright, I think I like that one. So I'm gonna go with that one. And then I'm gonna add a tone there, cream. I'm gonna go with that. And then down at the bottom, you can add multiple of these. So those other ones I can only add one, but now I can add multiple. I can add clarity or a lot of clarity. If I need to darken it a little bit, there we go. Want to add some grain. Want to add a vignette. Okay, so let's say I'm really happy with that. There's no sharpening in this one though, but let's say we're happy with that. And I want the other ones to look like this same image. Well, I'm in the middle of this row. Is that going to matter? You know, if I want to sync it with a bunch of other ones, a lot of people think it has to be the first image. They have to edit that first one and then sync the rest of it behind it. But that's not the case, okay? So we've edited this one. I'm going to hold down my Command key, or on a PC it'd be your Control key, and I'm going to click the other ones I want to sync with. So now I've clicked them. We can see my anchor edit, okay, which is the one that's a little bit whiter than the other ones. And then I'm going to come over here to the right side of the panel, and down at the bottom there is the word sync, and I'm going to sync. Now I want to sync all of it, okay, because I didn't do any local adjustments. If I had done local adjustments, meaning I had whitened the eyes and smoothed the skin and twinkled the eyes and whitened the teeth, if I had done all those things, I would uncheck local adjustments. And I'll just uncheck it just in, well, I want graduated filters. I want that. Okay. But you don't want to sync the brush. That's what's most important. So just unsync that brush if you're syncing. You don't ever, 99% of the time, you don't want to sync your brush adjustments. You can sync your graduated filters and your braided filters if your images are fairly similar, okay? Here, it's going to work fine because it's fine. And now I'm going to hit synchronize. All right, now. I did hit sync, yes. Synchronize. There we go. It's not showing up. My little MacBook is kind of acting funky on me today. So here is the black and white according to those same settings that we did with that first one. And see, it's not showing up in my film strip, but there it is. So we can see that. And then we can make individual tweaks if we need to. One more thing I want to show you really quickly, and I hope I'm not going to kill myself with this time-wise. Where's the trumpet? Okay, here we go. Virtual copies are not snapshots, okay? And snapshots are not virtual copies. I can export at this point from one of these snapshots, okay? I can export. I can click on, let's say, this one, and I can export from here. And then I can export this one and export it out. So I can do this one at a time. What if I say, oh, I loved all of these, or if let's say I made a black and white also, just really quickly, and this is going to be, let's say I'm happy with that, and then something like that, and then let's do a little gold tone, and then a little bit of clarity, and I need a little bit of light. Might be too much, I don't know. Okay, let's say I'm happy with that, and I want this as a snapshot too, and we'll do black and white. Okay, or brown and white. So let's say I want the clean and the black and white. I want both clean, this clean, and then the black and white. But then I'd have to export 3 different times. What I can do is make virtual copies. Okay, so I'm gonna right click on the thumbnail, or you can right click on the image and go to create virtual copy. So I've created one, but now I want to create some more. So I'm going to create another virtual copy. And I'm going to create another one. But do you see what happened with our snapshots? Our snapshots, they hung with the virtual copy. So now I can go in and say, let's see, for this one, nope, I want this one to be the clean edit. There we go. Then I can come to this one and say, no, I want this one to be the webinar clean. And I can say this one, no, I want this one to be, I forgot which ones I've done now. Do I have 2 of those? Let's say the straight of the camera. Okay. And then we have our black and white. And now I can export all of them at once by holding down my shift key, grabbing them all, and exporting right away from the develop. Like sometimes I'm in a hurry and I just swear I'm going to do it. File and then export. So that way I can quickly export 4 different versions, but I didn't have to create 4 different virtual copies and then play with editing each one individually. Nope, I edit one picture, I make snapshots. Then if I see that I want alternate versions, I want a clean, I want a vintage, I want a urban, I want a black and white, I want a brown and white, whatever, make those snapshots. I hope that's clear. Make those snapshots, and then go to each virtual copy, choose the snapshot I want it to be, and then I can export all 4 versions at once. I'm probably gonna have a lot of questions about that. It's simple and difficult at the same time. There's nothing about it. It's simple. You just have to wrap your head around snapshots. Okay. All right. So, done that. What? 20 minutes. I'm doing great. So, let me think. What I was going to do? Okay. I forgot what I was going to do. Okay, so we're going to do another picture really quickly, and it was which one was it? All right, this is sweet. So if we're gonna make this, I'm gonna go through the whole process again, okay? And first thing I'm gonna do is the crop. I haven't showed the crop tool yet, and not that I can cover everything. This was 1 hour, and you cannot cover everything in Lightroom in 1 hour. So I'm just gonna crop this really quick. All right. And I don't know, for some reason I want that rock out of the way. So let's say I'm happy with that. And then this string is bothering me real quick. I'm gonna get rid of that. If you are new to Lightroom, I will have to say that I can come down here and do it. Do you see that I'm still seeing some of that little red rope right there, little red string? And the reason that I knew right away what the problem was, the opacity is down. The opacity is how much we see of that change, okay? So when my opacity was lowered, I was saying, hey, I don't want to see 100% of the change. I want some of the old stuff to come through. And once I increase the opacity, now it's gone, okay? That was very quick clone tool. The Lightroom guide that I'll show you in a minute talks about that. It's a great way to get started with Lightroom. I wrote it. It's good. I did put my heart into it. Okay, so we've got a sweet picture here, and let's just do some quick edits. And I'm going to run short on time, so I'm really just going to use that, and let's do a little bit of contrast and sharpening. Sometimes I like vignettes, sometimes I don't. Sometimes, as long as I can't notice it strongly, I like it. If I can really see it, I'll take it off. Let's see. I was going for a clean edit. What am I doing? Okay, so if you mess up, go to your history. And let's come back to that. Your history is on that same left panel, okay? Navigator, presets, snapshots, history, and collections. Oh, it's on your left. So I'm just going for a clean edit here, and he looks a little cool because I can tell he's a little bluishly pink. I know, so I'm going to warm him up with that a little bit, the warm center. And let's see. Nope, I don't want make matte. Let's see, let's back that up. So let's just say that's our clean and edit. Okay, so I took a snapshot. Command N, N as in Nancy, or Control N. So now I can go back and still keep going. And let's say now I want to play around with, we got grapes, retro matte, make matte, hazy matte. I think I like that. Or you can do tones cool, tones rose, tones warm. I think I like that. Okay. And blue and green pop. Now some of these I've already chosen, and so they're not gonna, you won't see anything new because you can only choose one from each of those groupings. So again, this is just quick, which is just quick. And so I can just do another one and do creative one. Now I'm gonna reset the image. My Lightroom's being a little slow here. Oh, I messed up the crop, didn't I? Oh well. All right, so now I can sync the crop though. Okay. We can make some black and whites. The preset collections I'm using for quick edit examples here are the workflow ones where you can layer the presets. Pretty Presets has some other beautiful presets collections, but I'm just using the workflow ones where we can just layer them so I can kind of quickly see what I want. It's just very quickly, and that's what I'm doing. The tone blue, and so if you want those mattes, you can get that. Light and contrast, golden light, kind of like that. Add that vignette. You want to add some grain, so it looks kind of newspapery, kind of old. You can do that, and so we can make another snapshot, black and white. All right, so now I can make my virtual copies. So I'm gonna right click and create a virtual copy, and I just keep doing that. And create that. So then I can just click, oops, I made too many. So we can just click, if I want the clean edit for this one, or the creative one for there, we can do that. And that you can just layer those presets and choose what you want. And then we can export by clicking on them and click export. That's the last thing I wanted to talk about. I'm going to export these over here. So I'm trying to be quick. I always run out of time with this. So the reason I want to talk about exporting is because people will edit, and then they just live in their Lightroom. The images are on your hard drive. No destructive editing has taken place on your pictures at all, okay? They have only been in this virtual world. Lightroom has theoretically helped you do these edits, but nothing has been applied until we export. And even then, they're not really applying them on your image. They're creating whole new ones. Your original file will remain untouched, okay? So it's important that you edit your pictures, but let them go, let them free, let them get out of Lightroom. So export, and you've got to pay attention, just like when you import, you got to pay attention to destination, where it's going, things like that. Think about, you got to pay attention, same thing in reverse. Where's this new file going? And that's your export location. What do you want it to do? Do you want it to go into a specific folder? Choose a folder later. Same folder as the original. That might be what you want. Or we can do a specific folder. So now if you choose specific folder, it's going to show you where it's going right now, and we would need to choose differently. So click choose, and then we can create a new folder, webinar edits, and hit create, and then hit choose. Now I can create a whole new folder inside that, or just uncheck that. You can rename it if you want to. Okay, so we can click, I'm gonna hit edit. At this point, don't worry about this. You can erase that whole thing. You just click and pull it right out. So we can name it whatever you want. You can do the shoot name like Jones 2014, okay? And then I like to do a space if I'm going to do a sequence after that. So now I can hit insert a sequence. So it would be Jones 1, Jones 2, Jones 3, Jones 4. And I could hit done. Right here, I cannot remember, but I think the default has this quality down some. So make sure that you move that quality up to 100. I'm going to change mine. I want mine to export as a JPEG. And I'm not going to resize to fit anything. But if this was going to go on the internet, I would resize. I would click this. And let's say if it's for a blog post, I could do no more than 600 wide or 1,000 high. You know, it's at whatever you need. If it's for print, I would want to sharpen for matte paper. you can change how much. You can change low, standard, high, and you're probably thinking, but I've already sharpened. Yes, we've already sharpened once, but this is such a smaller amount of sharpening. Lightroom has designed these to kind of go in tandem, so it's really okay. Let's see. If you want to, this metadata, handle that later. Don't worry about that for new people. Watermarking, if you're going to be sharing it on the internet, you may want to put your name on it or your web address, things like that. If you want it to open up, let's say you want to put it in a collage. Like this, it's 10 different pictures. You want to put them in a collage for Facebook or for your um, uh, online gallery or a blog post or whatever, then you might want to put them in a collage in Photoshop or Elements, whatever you're familiar with. And I could choose to open them in Photoshop CC or Elements. So it's going to create those new files and then open my other program, and there they are. And then I can make like a collage with them, with a template, whatever I need. Or I could have them just pop up and show in Finder, or I could do nothing. So I'll just do show Finder. I always like to see them afterwards. I just do. I like to see they're done. I like to see that they look like I wanted them to look like. You'd be surprised how many times, like, I'll think I've turned off the watermark and then I didn't, but I didn't. Luckily, I had it show up. So when I looked at them, I'm like, oh, I forgot to take off the watermark. So I'm able to go in and do it again. So I prefer to always see the export after it's done. So I can export. And sometimes it takes a while, and then sometimes it's really quick. I did like 500 pictures at once, and it took like an hour, 45 minutes, something like that. So it all depends on the speed of your Lightroom and how long, how many you're doing. Not speed of Lightroom, speed of your computer. If your computer's really fast, if it's a supercomputer, or if it's one that's a little bit older, it may take it longer. It really depends. Okay, so I'm going to look at questions. Oh, there they are. So I tend to just like to look at them and see how they are. There's been many a time when I did have a watermark on there or not have it, and it's going on my blog post. I'm like, oh, I forgot. So I got to go put watermark. But that's what I tend to like to look at them, just to double check. Okay, so that was a lot in a short amount of time. All right. I did not talk about the book really quickly. I didn't talk about the book. The e-guide. If you're brand new to Lightroom, this is something you might want to look at. And it's called Lightroom 101, a quick start guide to Adobe Lightroom. And it really is, it's not everything. Okay, I would have loved to talk about everything, but I just didn't have time and really didn't know how to put it all into words. But this is a quick start guide, meaning to help get you familiar with Lightroom and get you using it. That's what was really important to me, is to get you using Lightroom. And if you want to print it out, it's not so long that you can't print it. It's 32 pages. I try to keep the pictures to a minimum so that we weren't eating up your toner. But if you want to use it on a tablet or the computer, there's hyperlinks. So everywhere you see blue with the underline, it's a hyperlink. So if you click on one, it takes you straight to that page. Now, at the bottom, if you want to go back to table of contents, you just click on back to table of contents. Some of the pages also have, trying to think, what are some that have blog links to blog posts that talk more about that. So I'm trying to think which ones have it, but I know, let's see, I know, like this one does. See a blog tutorial about 3 Lightroom settings you should change right now. So there's several links to blog posts to help you learn beyond the guide. But if you're new to Lightroom, I think it would really help you. Right now, it's only available with the black and white set, and that set is 40 presets and will help you customize your own black and white look, brown and white or tan and white, whatever you want, matte, no matte, contrast, and the guide is a bonus. Okay, so now. Okay. A question I see a good bit is how to layer presets. Normal presets cannot be layered. The presets that can be layered are the Clean and Creative Advanced preset and the Black and White Workflow. The other presets, the reason they can't be layered is because they compete for these panels, okay? So they're competing for either the sliders in the basic panel or the tone curve panel or the hue sat or split tone. They're competing. They cannot layer on top of each other. So it's not like actions in Photoshop or Photoshop Elements where you can run an action and then run another action and then run another action. It just keeps, layering on top of each other. In Lightroom, it's usually one or the other. However, the Clean and Creative Advanced and the Black and White Workflow, those are two that were created so that you could layer them. So you could pick one from one group, one from another group, one from another group. The reason you can choose one from each grouping is because they're competing. They're competing with each other. That slider can only be in one spot. It can't be in two different spots at the same time. Does that make sense? I hope it does. So that's layering presets. All right. Okay, there's some collections questions. I didn't get into collections at all. I would love to, but I couldn't. What are the gray circles again when editing eyes? That was Clarette Bell who asked. What a pretty name. And those little white or gray circles you saw, that's where I started brushing. So let me just illustrate that really quickly again. So if I'm going to use a brush here, let's deselect. So if I use a brush, say like add darkness, one we can see pretty well, increase the flow. Wherever I start brushing, it's going to put out a pin. Did you see that dark? The very first time I start using it, I'm going to let up, it did this black circle with a white circle around it. That's where I started brushing. Lightroom is being funny. And once I click to do a new brush, all right, so right now it's active. If a circle has a black center, it's an active brush, meaning it can be altered. If I tweak sliders, it's going to alter wherever I brushed. Once I click new and I come back in, now it's turned to this silver color. All the different silver buttons you see are where I started brushing. If I want to get rid of a brush, I click on it, okay, so it's active, and then I hit delete. Now on a PC, you don't have that poof of smoke, so don't think something's wrong and it's not really deleting. It's just going to go away without the animation. And I don't know why they don't have the poof of smoke on PC. At least it's not on mine. Maybe it's on other people's, but it's not on my PC. But it's a great question. So those little white circles you saw, or gray circles, those are the pins where you started brushing. What is the difference between the density and flow on the brushes? Laura got that. Okay. Well, just in case anybody else, now that I said it, the flow restricts how much goes down on each swipe, but it's cumulative. You can keep adding to it. Density is how it's like restricting the flow, period. It won't ever let any more than that amount go through. Hope that. Elena, was the keyboard button being held down to adjust masking? Yes, Elena, I held down the Alt key or Option, but you don't have to hold it down. That's just for you to see, to visualize where your mask would be. So I did it for your visual aid, but generally I don't bother holding it down. I just swipe it over to 70. I mean, that's 70 to 75 is where I usually land it. If I'm concerned, then I'll hold the Alt key down. It's Alt key on a PC or Option key on a Mac. Why would you use a virtual copy? Stacy asked that. Let's say you're not real sure if a client is going to want just the clean natural edit, or if they're going to want more of a vintage look, or if they want a black and white. So you can create virtual copies to give them those choices. That's generally when I create virtual copies, or black and white. Like when I shot a wedding, they got a CD, they got a CD of color and they got a CD of black and white. What I ended up separating out the black and white from the color and exporting those separately. Long story. It gets all into collections and sorting, and I'm not going to get into that. That's more advanced. One day, hopefully, we'll do a real advanced course. What is the best way to export for Facebook? Let's see. What is the best way to export? Okay, so when your question is, what is the best way to export? Okay, that one, I would love to answer that one, but it might be too complicated for the time I've allowed. Okay, Jennifer, I wish I could get to that one, but I think it's more relevant to you right now than everybody, so I'm trying to answer all the ones that would be applicable to most people. Okay, something about creating collections. Okay, we've done, hopefully Laura will share later, but we've done previous webinars about collections and collection sets. They're really easy, and they're in the Lightroom guide. I explain all about creating collection sets and collections. I can't get into that right now, but possibly, I don't know if the older webinars are accessible or what that is, but I'll find out from Laura, and maybe we can bring back one from the vault about collections, Meredith, and that helped. But I see that somebody was helping you, I think, or was answering you, so hopefully you found the help you needed. And I just can't get into collections right now. Okay, review the sync process. Okay, I can do that. So we've got two. I think I've got two. I need to rotate them. I'm going right. Sometimes Canon picture, it must be Canon pictures, because sometimes theirs don't rotate right. Okay, so I've got two pictures here. They're so pretty, and you generally cannot sync pictures unless they're shot in the same light, in the same setting, they've got the same color, temperature, that kind of thing. Those are images you can sync. You can't sync a picture shot inside an office under fluorescent lighting with a picture shot out, out in the yard. They're not going to work well together. Generally, you can sync crops, but you're not going to sync those edits like exposure and white balance, things like that. So I'm just going to quickly do something, just quickly. Who knows? Let's see. Okay, so we've got something really quick, and I want to sync it with this other one. So I'm going to hold down my Shift key or Command key. Either one will work because it's right next to me. If you need to select pictures that are out of order, hold down your Control key or Command key on a Mac. If they're all in a line and you've done the first one or the last one, you can hold your Shift key down and select them. Command key for if they're out of order, Shift key if they're in a line and you're doing the first or last. Okay, so now at the bottom of this panel on the right side, doesn't matter which one you're in, it's at the very bottom. We're going to click Sync. And we have a sync option box that comes up. If you only want to sync, let's say we just changed the exposure and the white balance. So you could choose check none. You do want the process version though. And you could choose exposure and white balance. And we could just sync those two things. Okay? If that's all you did. Let's say you did a really strange crop, but it's specific to how you want to print or whatever, then you can actually sync the crop. So here we go. You can just sync the crop and do that. We want to check all because we want to match everything. We've not done anything to either picture except for those two things. So I want to sync everything. And I would hit synchronize. And then we have it. Now, with this other one, we can come in here and we can, if we need to, if we say, oh, it's a little bright, you can always come in and reduce the exposure a little bit, do what you need to with it. but that's a quick sync. Okay, one more question, and I'm probably gonna have to go. Help before we go. If we change an adjustment brush mode, will they go back to default when we do another photo? Great question. Okay, Lauren asked, if we change an adjustment brush from Pretty Presets, will they go back to the default when we go to another photo? As long as you click new and you go back to it differently. So let's say, I see what she's saying. So we did add darkness. So let's say I did add darkness and I'm doing it right here and I say, oh no, I want it darker. So I pulled exposure down. Okay, so we got it really dark. So we changed a Pretty Preset brush. Will it go back to default when we go to another one? So I'm gonna click done. And now let's come to this one. I'm gonna do brush. It is gonna go back. Let's see, I'll make sure. Let's go to one and then we'll go back to add darkness. Okay. And you have to shift off it. It's gonna remember your change. Honestly, I never even addressed this. And when we shifted back, it went back to default. So yes. And so now we can lower it down if we want it really dark. Okay, and we can darken all around. But it's going to go back to default for you. Now, if we want to get rid of it, just hit delete. A great question. So yes, as long as you're not overriding that thing, it's going to go back. What Facebook page should we visit? Laura, what is it's if you search for Pretty Presets private group or group, and you just submit to be a member, Laura and I usually are the ones allowing, approving people, and there you can share. That group is for sharing questions regarding Pretty Presets, regarding Lightroom, sharing pictures that you edited with what you've learned from the webinars, with the presets, with the brushes, and things like that. Okay, so y'all had great questions, and I hate it's over. One of these days I'm gonna have a marathon webinar, I think. And to be clear, I use the brushes. What was the name of the brush set, Laura? The new brush set they had out. Perfect Portrait. I don't know. What is the name of the brush set? Okay. It's got a lot of brushes in it and it's fantastic. I haven't felt like I need anything else. And I use the Clean and Creative Advanced Workflow because those are layerable and I was able to just click through. I could do a clean edit or I could do a creative. And I used the black and white workflow. And then I did edits on my own. Okay. And y'all were fantastic. Really quick before we go, don't forget. And I would love to talk about collections. The lady who asked questions, because I love collections. Laura knows I could talk all day long about collections. This is my travel laptop. My PC at home has like a bazillion collection sets and collections. Okay, so, and the little trick I'm doing by making the panels go away, if you hit tab on your keyboard, it'll push the two side panels away. If you hit tab again, it brings them back, okay? So tab, and it pushes them away. It won't push the film strip away. The film strip's the one at the bottom, but it'll push the two sides. Okay. So for the next 60 minutes, 25% off the entire store with the code webinar. That's at prettypresets.com or lightroompresets.com, same place. And then for the next, I don't know when it's over, soon, 40 black and white presets that you can layer to create your own custom black and white, brown and white with different tones and detail, plus the Lightroom guide. That's 63% off at Fetadil Cafe. It's $19. And I'd love, if you have questions, you get the guide and there's questions you have, feel free to ask. And I think that's it. Y'all were fantastic, and I hope we can do another Lightroom soon and that you'll join us.